Peir Gimel. You see Peir Gimel, it's on page 110. Rishon Rosh Hashanah or Daf Nun Hey, column 3.
TheYeshiva.net.
So there's Midas Hadin and there's Midas Harachamim. Chazal tell us, Betchila Allah b'machshava livri esa'il Midas Hadin, Rosh ein olam eskayim shitif ima Midas Harachamim. What's the difference between Midas Hadin and Midas Harachamim? The way it's explained in this Maimer of Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar in Likkutei Torah, the Nekuda is Din is the emotion or the feeling which demands, warrants, and creates differentiation, distinction, independence, autonomy, boundaries. You are not me. What is Midas Harachamim? Midas Harachamim then is allowing the person to recreate the relationship. Midas Hadin is detachment. Midas Harachamim is attachment. So Midas Hadin, there is the understanding that you ultimately have to live your life. And Midas Hadin therefore causes the tzimtzum, it causes the self-withdrawal, the restriction of the infinite presence to allow for the emergence ultimately of an independent human being, an independent reality, which allows there to be malchus, malchus beratzain, kiblu aleihim. That's Bereishis bara Elokim, which is Midas Hatzimtzum Shemesh U'Magen Hashem Elokim. Elokim is the Magen on the Shemesh, the sheath that blocks or eclipses or limits the impact, the intensity, the warmth of the Shemesh, which allows there to be differentiation, distinctiveness, individuality. Midas Harachamim is then to allow the person to become whole once again, to realign himself or herself with their ultimate source, with their ultimate shirish, with their ultimate makar, to be able to become re-included in where you come from, to go back to your own essential source and makar, but not by eliminating the process of Midas Hadin, but by sublimating the process. And that's the two stages of Midas Hadin and Midas Harachamim.
Both are in ayin and in yesh.
Yes. Now comes Peir Gimel. Achine hamshacha klolos nimshacha b'chol Rosh Hashanah al kol Hashanah lios hamshachas habitul b'pratius be'esek haTorah mitzvah shel kol Hashanah. He discussed at length that generally Torah and mitzvahs is the process through which the yesh of the world is realigned with the ayin of godliness, l'shem yichud kutshabrichu u'shchinte, which is before every single mitzvah. Because every single mitzvah in one way or another creates the yichud of Hashem and Elikim, the unity between the differentiated universe and the one universe which is part of the Ein Sof, the alignment of the outer self and the inner self, of the Geshem and the Ruach, of the Chaimer and the Tzura, of the Ayin and the Yesh, the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad, which is Elokeinu, it's all inclusive, and the V'ahavtas Hashem Elokecha, which is individuated. So you have the Klal, and you have the Prat, and then in Torah and Mitzvahs you have the Prat coming back to the Klal and the Prat and the Klal. So he says generally this is the Torah and Mitzvahs a whole year, but on Rosh Hashanah is the flow, the general hamshacha, the source of this energy for the whole year, that individually, the Torah and mitzvahs of a whole year, there should be able to be this bitul hayash. Shalchei nikra Rosh Hashanah. That's the significance of the name Rosh Hashanah. Really the name, although we take it for granted, it's really a peculiar name. Because in Chumash, it's not called Rosh Hashanah, you know that. In Chumash, you don't have a name Rosh Hashanah. In Chumash, you have an expression, Eretz Asher Einei Hashem Elokecha Bo Me'reishis Hashanah V'ad Achris Shana. From the beginning of the year, it should be called Reishis Hashanah. Rosh means the head. The head is not the beginning. The head is the head. The head is a miyuchas. The head is a head. With the head, I mean, the head is called a beginning. It's a head. We should call it Reishis Hashanah. It's the beginning of the year. It's the point in time when the year begins. So he says, no, the word Rosh Hashanah is very precise. Shu kamoya Rosh v'hamoyach. Rosh Hashanah in time is what the brain, the head, is in the human organism. What's the significance of the Rosh and the Moyach? Well, we know. Shemimena toitzos v'amshachas chayim l'chol evri haguf. The brain is the source from which emerges and flows life, vitality to all of the limbs of the body. The kach b'Rosh Hashanah nimshachius l'chol yemei Hashanah. So that's why it's called Rosh Hashanah. It's like the brain of the year. So what the brain is to the body, Rosh Hashanah is to the year. Now we understand that nothing happens in the body if it's not first experienced, organized, orchestrated, directed, controlled by the brain. And even after it's in the body, it's still the brain facilitates it, the brain processes it. There's even the concept of, what is it called? Phantom pain. Sometimes you don't have it in the body, but you still have it in the brain. The brain didn't register the results, so it's still there. Somebody chas v'shalom missing a limb, and the brain is still having pain from that limb. It's not there anymore, because everything exists first in the brain and remains there. That's the central nervous system of every nakuda of the entire body. If this is true, so then we understand what means that on the first Rosh Hashanah, Hashem Malach Geis Lovash, on the first Rosh Hashanah, that's like the neurological significance of Rosh Hashanah is the fact that what happened on the first Rosh Hashanah, what happens on every Rosh Hashanah, is that the beginning of the process of healing the world facing the trauma of creation, of differentiation, of separation, which is intrinsic to the plan. In order for there to be a yesh, in order for there to be malchus, Rosh Hashanah begins the process of realignment. Rosh Hashanah begins the process of reconnecting the very cosmos and the very person with its original essence, but only going through the prat. Only by going through the prat, by going through the malchus, by going through the nakuda of the nesava kadosh baruch hu liyas leidira b'tachtoina. So Rosh Hashanah is the brain of the year, that basically what will happen through the year, throughout the year, in Torah and mitzvahs, it first begins on Rosh Hashanah. If there's a man standing above and somebody standing below, you're on a mountain and somebody is in a valley, or just on the bottom of the mountain. They want to connect. So the one on the top has to go down, and the one on the bottom has to go up, and you say, let's meet halfway. Sometimes one is above, one is below, and you have to meet. So he says, Kach, kedei lahamshech hamshach el yoyin mebchinas bitul yesh, kedei sheyi hayesh batul ayin, tzarech gam hatachten lalas hu nafshay v'ruchei abahamis k'mar shekosav im yosim elov liboy ki ruach aisi ruach v'amshi ruach. On Rosh Hashanah there's an energy, and the energy that comes from Hashem on Rosh Hashanah is that there's a hamshach el yoyin mebchinas bitul yesh. There's an energy that in the world on Rosh Hashanah, which basically allows the yesh to be able to experience something of its original core, its ayin. So this is a hamshach el yoina, so that the yesh should be able to revert back to the ayin. But you have to meet halfway. So the tachta and the yesh also ought to ascend, also ought to climb up. And this is about aspiration, craving, that one soul ought to become aware of a thirst, of a yearning for this type of unity and this type of bittul. When a person becomes a master of cheshbon, a master of cheshbon doesn't mean a mathematical genius here. Mari de cheshbon means a master of self-reflection. Mari de cheshbon means Mari is a balabas, a master of cheshbon, of self-reflection, of inner reflection. Know thyself. A person has to understand who he is. That essentially his soul went through a traumatic experience. When we go back here, we're aligning the trauma of the universe, of life, with its original, most basic source of pain. And that is that his neshama yorat ployim. Yorat ployim means it descended in an extraordinary, transformative way. Ployim means it's like a pella. It's a wonder. It's not just you descended a little bit. It went through a metamorphosis that if you don't appreciate it, we call it trauma. That's what ployim means. It's a pella. It's beyond. It's extraordinary descent. Min makom kvoide yizbarach. Why? As explained at length. And here he's talking about the individual, not just the world. He spoke before about the world. Here he's talking about the individual. Your own soul was completely one. Kalul means it was nichlal. It was part of a klal, part of the collective. What do you mean part of the collective? It was submerged, subsumed. B'ma'atzila baruchu, in the one who emanated the light. From the word va'atzalti. I will emanate, I will differentiate, I will separate. But at this point, it was not kalul in the matzel. Vateiret ployim. Again, and the soul of a man, the consciousness of the human being descended in unique, extraordinary yirida, b'tzimtzumim rabim va'atzumim, through tremendous amounts of restrictions and limitations. In other words, this neshama, which is really Ein Sof, goes through a tremendous process of descent, of evolution, in which it's transformed and metamorphosized, until it becomes very nisgashma, it becomes very material to the point that it can come into a body and speak to a body and negotiate with a body and vitalize a body. Now he says, "V'hamaskil yovin kama mailas umadregas being in gashmis v'ruchnias, v'gam kama madregas v'ruchnias gavoya me'al gavoya adreim hamailas v'ein erech lein soif baruch." The maskil, the truly, I would say, spiritually perceptive man, will understand that when you speak about Gashmias itself, there's so many stages, there's so many milas, one deeper and more real than the other. And today we understand this. When I speak about Gashmias, I'm looking and all I see is a table. But if I use more refined instruments, suddenly I see that what I'm calling a table is really a whole other reality. There's a living universe behind this table, not millions but billions, sectillions or more of atoms that are moving around in extraordinary swiftness to create the reality you might call a cup or a phone or a finger or a table or a sefer, but it's all Gashmias. This is all still Gashmias. In other words, what I'm seeing is only a tip of the iceberg. That's in Gashmias. Then in Ruchnias. And then in Ruchnias itself, Gavoya Me'al Gavoya. More abstract, tracing back every reality to its all the way to its original source, Ad Reima Milas, and all of this is still not an erech to the Ein Sof. To the Ein Sof Baruch Hu, where all is infinite, because there everything is ayin. And even the highest level of Ruchnius had to emerge from ayin to yesh. And you're dealing here with the deepest levels of divine energy. So the very existence of a soul, we're not talking your sin, existence is about a tremendous distance. There was a tremendous, to be able to create this differentiation, the soul is struggling with an inherent separation that it went through. And not just a little separation, you know? I'm in Los Angeles, you're in New York for a few weeks. That can also be difficult. This is not Los Angeles and New York, that's his point. You're dealing with infinite transformation. If you cannot identify this tension of the soul, you cannot ultimately heal any tension. Because this is the root of all tension. This tension, this is the root of the tension. Because imagine what this tension is. And this was designed this way. This is a richuk. A person therefore has to feel bad for his soul. What do we mean bad? Bad here is not victimized. But racham rabim means you have to arouse great compassion. Compassion for your existence. Understand that your existence warrants compassion more than anything else. That's what it warrants. It's therefore somebody who's sensitive to this, it's natural for a soul to weep. Of course, this is paraphrasing Tfilas Chana that we read on Rosh Hashanah. Bachai Sifke. Therefore, the Arizal says as following: Kol mi she'enei boiche b'Rosh Hashanah, azay einish masir shleima. The Arizal says if somebody doesn't cry on Rosh Hashanah, it means his neshama is not complete. Now, when we read these books in Musar, we hear it as a judgment call. You better cry. You better cry, right? If you don't cry, we always knew you're bad. We always knew you're bad. So it's a very hard way to grow in Yiddishkeit this way, because you're not allowing many messages to come in. You're just right away directing it towards guilt. So you have to understand, Arizal is talking about, he's describing reality. He's describing reality. He's not judging anybody. On the contrary, what's the reality? So listen to this. That's an interesting question. Why did Arizal decide that Rosh Hashanah daf mevena? He didn't understand. What is crying out with Rosh Hashanah? Now you'll understand. What are you crying about? What are you crying about? So people will touch this Arizal. You're crying because what's going to happen to you this year? It's scary. What's going to happen to you this year? Somebody's in the waiting room of the hospital, waiting for the doctor to come out and giving the verdict, saying what the CAT scan showed, what the X-rays showed. Now, there's no question that that's a reason to cry. But here he sees it completely in a different way. You're crying. What are you crying? You're crying for life. Life is tough. Life equals a painful experience for your soul. What's the B'chiyah l'nishmasai? Sheyard makam k'vaydav in his gashma. Not something wrong that happened, or something bad that's going to happen. The very reality of the existence of the neshama, of what it went through, and what it faces in the world, is a very emotional experience. V'zeh, this is the pshat. Chazal speak about mayim tachtoinim boichin anan be'inin lemevi kedamalka. The Zohar says that the lower waters cry, we want to be before the king. The Medrash says, on day 2 of creation, Hashem separated the higher water from the lower water. On day 1, it says, the Spirit of God hovered over all the water. What happened on day 2? Hashem said, Yehi rakia v'hi mavdil bein mayim l'mayim. A firmament, what we call heaven, should separate the higher water from the lower water. So there's the mayim above the rakia, and there's the mayim below the rakia. This is the day of a split. Higher water, lower water. The whole earth is still not visible. Everything is enveloped with water, but it's mayim tachtoinim. On day 3, Hashem says the mayim should retreat. Yikavu, the mayim should gather into specific places. V'seirah hayabasha. Let dry land emerge. And we have the distinction between oceans, rivers, lakes, streams, wells, and what we call dry land. That's on Yom Shlishi. But already on Yom Sheni there's a division. There's the mayim above and there's the mayim below. So Chazal say, from that day on, mayim tachtoinim boichin. The lower waters are weeping. What are they crying about? Anan be'inin lemeve kadamalka. We want to stand in front of the king. Why were we sent down below the rakia? Below the rakia. Mayim tachtoinim boichin. What is this? So the Balatanya says this is basically the cry of Rosh Hashanah. The cry of Rosh Hashanah is the person becomes aware of the tremendous tzimtzum that was necessary in order to allow for his or her state of consciousness. This is not the tzimtzum that was necessary in order for a person to be allowed to sin. That's the next stage in the game. Obviously, once you're independent and once you're detached, so then there could also be complete separation and detachment, at least on a superficial level, or even on a deep level, but at least what's visible to the person. But this is the very b'chiyah that comes from the state of mayim tachtoinim, realizing what the neshama be'etzem is, what the world be'etzem is, and what it experiences itself as. Yeah.
What's the point of experiencing this, being so aware, when in fact it's such a short trip and then you're going back anyway? Why put so much emphasis? Excuse me for my ignorance.
No. It's not so ignorant. This is a good question. Why don't you answer? Yeah.
I'm going to answer, but we're using the word trauma. It sounds like something happened, and eventually it's going to be corrected. So then that kasha would be like, okay, just get over it, eventually be corrected. But This is a present moment experience. We're going, it's not we went through a trauma. We're going through a trauma right now.
This is life.
This is
Ongoing.
It's
And
an ongoing
because
trauma.
avoid the
It's an ongoing trauma.
because the avoid the is to do it
I'll tell you.
yourself.
Because this is not a tragedy. The tears here are not tragic. The tears here are becoming aware of the awesomeness of the experience, of the awesomeness of the reality. The tears here are not tears of a Greek tragedy, that everything ends in tragedy. The tears are the emotional experience of separation that is ongoing with the objective to be able to develop and fully bring in godliness into the yesh without just reverting back to the ayin. The point here is not to destroy the world. The point here is not to destroy the independence. The point here is not to Khalila kill oneself and just go back to the source. The point here is to be able to reveal the achdus, the oneness, within a world of fragmentation, within a consciousness of fragmentation. So there's an objective in this very process.
What does that do for us once we're gone on?
I'm sorry?
What does that do for us, the individual, once we pass down?
After.
Yeah.
You mean after a person lives?
Yeah, when you pass on, you go to the next round. What does all this business do? The recognition, the feeling, the going through, how does that help the soul once it goes to the next round?
I can't help myself here, but people who go through trauma and are totally present and reactive and responsive and dealing with the trauma as it's happening, with a total present moment awareness, usually do not suffer PTSD. I'm just hearing the same thing here. It's not.
And how does that square with what Rabbi
He's saying that people who go through trauma in life and they're present while it happens and they're in tune to it and they don't deny it or repress it or make believe it doesn't exist, they don't suffer from the symptoms of post-traumatic stress disorder because they integrated it.
So we go to the next round.
That's what you mean?
Post-stress disorder.
Question along
Is that
those
the
Yeah.
lines. Rabbi Noah speaks about the act of creation, what Hashem does is an act of kindness, is a no-sin. So if this is a world of trauma that we have to be misaken in order to get back to the ayin in our yeshus, if it's trauma, how is it a world of kindness?
Of what?
Kindliness. God created the...
Right. So I think that what we speak a lot about the kindness, it means that it allows for a relationship. And a relationship requires independence. A melech, like we learned, is not a moshel, is not a dictator. So the only way there could be a relationship is if you allow for independence. But independence means there's separation. And the separation is a very challenging experience for the neshama.
So it's kindness despite the trauma.
Right. I think it's a kindness that comes through working with the yesh, through being able to embrace it and face it and realize that this is where the objective of existence
Is that the
is.
descent for the purposes of an ascent?
Yes, exactly. This yirid is tzarech aliyah. It's the yisr na'ar that only comes min ha'chayshach. And the aliyah for the neshama is deeper than it was even initially. That's what the neshama gets out of it. The aliyah for the ascent for the neshama ascends through this even more than its original state. So he says, so this is the mayim tachtoinim that are crying. Zeu inyan tkiyas shofar. This will explain what's the connection of tkiyas shofar to Rosh Hashanah. Here again, it's a very difficult thing to understand. Why did the Torah decide suddenly on the first day of the year you have to start blowing shofar? Psad Yagon gives 10 reasons. Torah doesn't say anything. Yom Teruah, why, what, when, where, vu, was. So we take it for granted. Rosh Hashanah, you start blowing. What? For what? For whom? You know, take a violin, Mela. If you want to already give us a musical. But the shofar is not very musical. See, Taichas now will understand that it's based on the whole idea of what Rosh Hashanah is. First of all, you have Tkiyah Shvarim Trua Tkiyah. So it's interesting. We learned in Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov Kuf Tzaddik the whole halachic evolution of Tkiyah Shofar. How do you get to a shvarim, to a trua, to a tkiya? So the Gemara in the end of Rosh Hashanah has a whole sugya. Basically, we learned in Shulchan Aruch, the mother of Sisra, we're not sure if she sighed, if she sobbed, if she did both. So we don't know what a trua is, so we do saya shvarim, we do saya trua, we do both, and you always need a tkiya before and after. So that's Pashat and Halacha, how it developed. Here he discusses what does it represent from a spiritual point of view, from an emotional point of view. So he says, Tkiya kol Pashat. Tkiya always is a simple sound. What do we mean simple? Simple here means it's not broken. It's not fragmented. It's straightforward. It's simple. Hupchines hatshuka beruusa deliba. Tkiya represents tshuka, a yearning which is plain, simple. Ruusa deliba. A plain, simple here doesn't mean simple in the sense that it's dumb, like, simpleton. Simple here means it's the yearning, ru'usa de liba, the ratzon halev, the yearning of the heart. Shvarim u'trua amru be'gemara. Shvarim and trua, the Gemara describes Shoshana Lamed Gimel. Abaye says, u'inyan genuche ganach v'yilule yalil. It's the sigh and the sob. So this is where the Arizal got it. U'inyan abchia hanal. So when the Arizal says, kol mi she'ene boicha b'Rosh Hashanah, the Gemara says, Shvarim and trua is genuche ganach yilule yalil. So we touch it, it means it has to sound like a sigh and a sob. He says, no, it's the concept of the B'chiyah, the Shvarim and the Trua is essentially the voice of the soul that is crying on Rosh Hashanah. V'nikra Shvarim Trua, why is it called Shvarim Trua? Not because the person is broken himself. Because that allows you to break the shells in your life, the husks in your life, the blockages. Koyach HaKlippus means the power of the husks, the shells that block. And the Sitra Achra, the other side. Utruo miloshin tiroyim b'shevet barzel. You should break them with a shevet barzel, with a scepter of iron. V'gam truo miloshin ru'usa deliba. True in Aramaic also means ru'usa. Ru'usa is rotzen in Aramaic. Kumash Shakasav, and we have it even in Chumash, usruas melech boy. Rashi says, the rotzen of the melech ru'us, the rotzen of the melech is in him. Because this sense of compassion down here and these tears, this crying, also evokes above a deep desire and a tremendous from the source of rachamim to be able to make the person whole again. When you Hashem's Rachmanis, what does it mean Hashem has Rachmanis? Again, you could touch Hashem's Rachmanis, Chus v'rachem aleinu, Shma aleinu, Hashem aleinu. What's Chus v'rachem aleinu? Have Rachmanis. I should have a good day at work. I should have what I need. I should have all the blessings I need. Me, my family. Okay, that's the basic request. But Rachmanis here is something else. Chus v'rachem aleinu is to be able to undo the tzimtzum, to be able to make the person whole again. You should allow me to understand who I am. And therefore, the Gimel Midas are introduced always with an introduction. Hashem passed al panov. What does it mean al panov? It says Pirush Vayaver Kadam Oivim Makom Lamakom. Vayaver, like a person who travels, goes from one place to another place. Kach Vayaver Hashem al panov. From a very high state, he passes Sheyizgala al panov. He should be revealed al panov on his face. What does this mean? Panim himchinas levushim. Panim, the face, represents the garments. Shemachasim umastirim umitzamtzumim insoi baruch ubatzmei b'chvoide. All the garments that can conceal and restrict the infinite presence. Ki panim hein asara shemes she'eina nimchakim lefi shem b'chinas shemes b'chinas oisius. Lekach hein levushim shemachasim umastirim alein insoi baruch ubatzmei b'chvoide. The panim that we talk about, the face, refers to the 10 names of Hashem that are not erased. All names are oisius, are letters. In other words, names are the way you are projected, you are expressed. They're always levushim. It's your name, it's your reputation, it's your resume. It's the way you're experienced by others. This is the way the Ein Sof becomes from an ayin, it becomes a yesh, it's a levushim. Aval b'yisayirus it gimel midas harachim el yoinim shebehen nemar vayaver Hashem al panov. Hashem goes al panov, beyond his face. Uksiv yoyer Hashem panov. What does it mean yoyer Hashem panov? She yoyer apanim shelo yalimu v'lo yastiru kvoida. The face that you show is the face that other people could see. Vayavra Hashem al panav means he moves away above his face. Yoyer Hashem panav elechem birchas kayana means he should show the light behind the face, that the face should not eclipse. U'kamayshi yila asid v'nigla kvoid Hashem. V'akadosh baruch hu moitzi chama min arteika. The Gemara says he takes out the sun from its encasement. What does this mean spiritually? Shemesh u'magein Hashem elikim, that Shem Havaya comes out of its magein. Yoyer Hashem panav. Ela la'asid yizah begashmis mamash. La'asid lavi, it's going to be also physically. V'kibul schar sh'olamacha l'kabel schara. That's part of the schar. The Gemara says, Hayoim la'asoysam ulamacha l'kabel schara. Aval hayoim la'asoysam beruchneis. But today, everything that comes out in the schar happens today, but today it happens beruchneis. In other words, when we speak about schar, it's never divorced from what we do. That's what he says here. Hayoim and machar are not two separate realities. The Pasuk says at the end of Hashanah, all these mitzvahs that I commanded you, hayoim la'asoysam, to do today. So the Gemara says, Rashi brings today to do, v'loy l'machar, l'machar l'kabel scharim. Tomorrow you get the reward. So the Balatanya says, today and tomorrow are not two separate realities. What happens today in Ruchnius will come out tomorrow in Gashmius. In other words, the schar of a mitzvah is not something separate from the mitzvah. It is the mitzvah. It's just the impact of the mitzvah revealed in a physical way. So, for example, you have a play. The stage is not set up when the curtains open. The stage is set up before the curtains are open. When the curtain opens, you get to see what has been set up before. The world of Lamachar, the world of Mashiach, the world of La'asad Lavei is not a different world. It's just the curtains open up. You get to see what was happening in this world. It's the same world. It's just manifested. So the Moitzi Chama Min Arteika physically happens then. The spiritual Moitzi Chama Min Arteika happens now. Then it's just going to be an opening of the curtains. In other words, the alignment of the Yesh with the Ayin happens throughout history. It's not the world of Mashiach is a separate universe. You finish your job and here's your paycheck. The paycheck has nothing to do with what you did. The paycheck has to do with I'm rewarding you. That's not the Vart. The Vart is the paycheck is generated. It's revenue that you created. You understand? That's Pshat Schar Mitzvah Mitzvah. It is the mitzvah. You're just seeing what you did. So La'asad Lavei is today's world with the curtains opened up. But it's really the same reality. That's why Moitzi Chama Min Arteika essentially is a description of Avodas Hashem today in Ruchnius. In Gashmis, we don't have the sun coming out of its Nartik, nor do we have Havaya coming out of Eloikim. The Seder HaAvodah HaKvua B'nefesh Adam Liyuz Gilu Yizeh B'Ruchnius B'nafshay B'Avodah Tama Al Yidei Yisayirus HaRachmanas B'Pchiyah Genuchei Gonich V'Yilula Yolam. The Seder Avodah that's established in Nefesh Adam is how do you reveal this Beruchnius in your soul in a complete Avodah? It's through arousing the compassion, the Rachmanas on your Neshama, Bepchiyah, with the tears of Ginuchei Ganech Yulula Yalul, the sigh and the sob. So therefore, in conclusion, Tikeu Shofar on Rosh Hashanah is a result of the soul trying to go back to where it belongs, to where it always was. That is Tikeu Shofar. You always start with a Tikeu. Tikeu is the Re'usa de Liba, the simple yearning of the heart. That's the Tikeu. It's plain. It's not complicated. And it's not dissected in details. It's the Re'usa de Liba of the soul of the Jew. To go out of the world which is based on a post-Tzimtzum reality and return to its own Ein Sof, which means really return to its own Neshama, because this is the Neshama. It's not that the Neshama is something else. The Neshama is one with the Ein Sof, and yet the person becomes a new type of person in this world. The person becomes a Yesh in this world, and we're supposed to become a Yesh in this world. Rosh Hashanah, you bridge the gap. Rosh Hashanah starts the journey upwards, just like on the first Rosh Hashanah, Hashem Malach, Geus Lavish, because till Adam came into the world, the evolution was going downward, not upward. And then this world, on the sixth day, you hit, so to speak, rock bottom, and then Rosh Hashanah starts the ascent upwards, from the Yesh back to the Ayin, but not by obliterating the process, but revealing and working through the process. Working through the process that from the Prat you come back to the Kalam. In order to do this, the person first has to acknowledge the descent. First has to acknowledge the transformation. First has to acknowledge what he calls the tated ployim, the tremendous yirida that the world and the neshama experienced, and Tikeu Shofar is that yearning, whether it's in the Tikeu, it's the Ru'usa, the Libba, and then the Shvarim and the Tru, which are different types of Tchiyah, whether it's a sigh or it's a sob, but it's different types of weeping. What is the weeping for? The weeping for is the person has Rachmanis, has compassion for their own neshama, what it went through, and can acknowledge it. Can really, really acknowledge it, and then afterwards comes again a Tikeu.
How can you do that without being depressed, getting depressed?
Isn't this a recipe for depression? I think it's the other way around, no? It's the only way not to get depressed. I think it's the only way not to get depressed, right? You want to explain again? Say. He's asking a good shayla. L'chayre, this sounds like very depressing. No?
If you're aware of your sadness and your brokenness, that's not depression, it's sadness and brokenness.
And what's the alternative?
The alternative is depression.
Why? Why when you're not aware does it become depression?
Depression is running away from the pain. That's different.
You understand?
So it's still pain.
Depression is running away from pain, not being aware of pain. Being aware of pain eliminates depression.
I think he's looking at sadness and depression.
Huh?
And depression. Maybe that's right.
Pain and depression are two separate things. Pain and depression are not the same thing. So when a person runs away from their pain, or they deny their pain, or they make believe it doesn't exist, or they feel guilty about their pain, that's a big one, then it breeds a sense of depression. But when a person could look at it and acknowledge it and feel it and know what it is, then on the contrary.
It's not something bad that happened to you.
Exactly.
It's the you.
Right.
So there's no depression involved, there's no sadness involved.
Right.
You're just realizing what you are and the whole point of yourself.
You realize what you are, you realize the process of life, and you realize what life entails and the different things one goes through life, which is all a result of this. Remember, all of life is a result of this Yerida, everything we experience in life. So when a person can understand that the biggest tension here is the tension that they have to face of dealing with existence itself, everything really now falls into place. So the Nekuda in summation here is that the story of existence, of creation, is a story of Klal, Prat, and the objective is that the Prat could and should and will be reunited with the Klal. And yet, there's a uniqueness in the second unity that comes after the separation, after the differentiation, because it's what he calls the Yisr Na'ar, Min HaChoshech. It's the light that comes from the darkness, from the separation, from the apparent fragmentation, where one reveals that really there's no separation. Really, it's all one. And the gap that's there, the separation that's there, is only to allow the person to experience a relationship on their own terms. Malchusei beratzon kiblu alei. So in other words, the separation is simply to create a much deeper unity. Because there's unity that comes without differentiation. So you l'chatchila don't exist. The kavanah of the whole bria was that the unity should be a far deeper unity. So in many ways, a separation is not really a separation, because the whole purpose of the separation was simply to be able to reveal the unity within the prat, to be able to reveal that even the yesh is really one with the ayin. Huh? Kenzog.
You know, Katz used to be a film director, so he said that's the formula of Hollywood. Boy meets girl, boy loses girl. It's a war, there's a dinosaur, and then there's a reuniting. That's the formula of creation.
I don't know why he has to go to Hollywood. He could read Shir Hashidim.
No.
If you learn Shir Hashidim.
The item that he's teaching, he's saying, but that's the basic.
I think all drama is basically,
Life is,
the ideal, perfect world, the separation and all the pain that comes with that, and the overcoming of it. Right? Why is that so inherent? Why is that what we call drama? Because I guess it's rooted in a very deep space of reality. So, and this has many ramifications. The first thing is, to put it in simple English, a person has to, I guess, cut himself some slack. That the separation is not a result of error, of sin, of corruption, of them being bad. It's part of the process. It's essential to the process.
It's not the end of the world. It's the beginning of the world.
It's the beginning of the world, exactly. Yeah. It doesn't mean I have to worship my separation, but it means that's intrinsic to existence. Intrinsic to existence is that there's a sense of separateness. Now, psychology, this is big discussions about mothers and children and the attachment to the mother and the detachment from the mother. It's it's a pretty loaded topic on many different levels. But here we're talking in terms of the Ein Sof and the human being in the world, especially the neshama, because the neshama experiences this even more. Because of what the neshama is, essentially, as he says, it's kolul, it's a chelik elikamimah. But the whole purpose of the gap was to realize that the unity that comes from that space is a far deeper, far more enduring unity, a real unity, and one that ultimately personifies the whole objective of existence. As he says, Nesava Kadosh Baruch Hu liyas lo yidira b'tachtonim, that there should be the achdus, the synchronization between the yesh and the ayin. And when we say the ayin, we mean the divine energy which animates the yesh, and deeper, the divine energy, the way it is in its ultimate source, where it is also ayin. It is ayin because it's like the ray of the sun. In the sun, it's like the soul, like the light wave in the solar core. Pre-tzimtzum.
In reality, this yesh stays the whole life. Meaning it's always a separation.
Well, he said, La'asid lavai, the chama will come out of its nartik. Hayoim la'asoisam.
It's like an everyday battle to
sometimes it's a battle, sometimes it's not a... We don't always have to make it a battle. Sometimes it's a real battle. Sometimes it's a smaller battle. Sometimes it's a tremendous tainuk. Sometimes it's a tremendous tainuk. But his point was that all of Torah and mitzvahs is based on this. And with Torah and mitzvahs, there's a real yichud between the yesh and the ayin. So yes, there's a certain sense of yesh that remains, and it's supposed to remain. But in Torah and mitzvahs, you have the yichud of Hashem Elokim, l'shem yichud. That's what the shem yichud kudsha brichu u'shchinte.
It's not really the beginning of the end. It's the beginning of the whole.
So a person has to be able yet to appreciate this process and what? Yeah. Now he points out Rosh Hashanah is the key moment when the gap is overcome, so to speak, when the unity could be created, and part of that comes from the very understanding of the pain of the separation, which is what Tikeu Shofar is. And derech hagav, we just learned in Siman Tov Kuf Tzadik that if you blow shofar from the broad side, you're not yotza min hameitzar. What's the havana of this? What do we care if you blow shofar from the broad side? Okay, it's not the easiest way to produce sounds, but let's say you could produce a sound. If you're really skilled. What do we care if you blow shofar from the wide side, not from the narrow side? The point here is very clear, because the point of Tikeu Shofar is the recognition of the tremendous journey of the soul and of the whole world to a point that it exists in a place of meitzar, in a place of smallness, in a place of tzimtzum. There's that differentiation. And the very calling out, that is what overcomes the separation. Dafke min ha-meitzah karasa yutke. And then is anoni b'merchav yutke. B'merchav is this harchava. So Tkiya, he says, is the ru'usa, the libet, the ratzon halev. Shvarim and trua are different forms of the pain, of the difficulty, of the distress that life entails from a person who experiences on some level the separation. And let's understand that essentially all suffering in the world is really coming from this separation. The question is how you see it. But it's all ultimately traced back to this. It's just how it trickles down and it manifests itself. So this is really the confrontation, the looking at it, staring at it, and appreciating it for what it is. And he says the very cry of the Tikeu Shofar that creates the Vayaver Hashem al Panav Vayikra, that he should transcend even his face. Yored Hashem Panav Elecha, that through the Trua, through the Rachmanis, he's Ma'orer, Yud Gimel Midas HaRachim, which is Yored Hashem Panav Elecha, Vayaver Hashem al Panav Vayikra, that there should be the yichud between the yesh and the ayin. It says, Val Zeh Nemar, on this the pasuk says, the line starts Yolil, you see, second column, page 110, Al Zeh Nemar. We now go back to the original pasuk, Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar B'Kesel Yom Chageinu, Ki Choik Li Yisrael U'Mishpat L'Kei Yaakov. And the Pele here is, Chazal already point out, it doesn't say a date. It says, blow shofar in the month. Blow which month? So the Gemara says in Rosh Hashanah, Ezo Chag Shach Chodesh Miskasa Bo Yavayim Zeh Rosh Hashanah. Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar would mean blow shofar when the Chodesh from the word Chidush, when the month is renewed. In other words, the only Yom Tif when? The only Yom that's celebrated on Rosh Chodesh is Rosh Hashanah, because all the other holidays are in the middle of the month. So it's the only Yom Tif that's celebrated by Chodesh, when there's a new moon. So Tikeu Bachoidesh, when there's a new moon, you should blow shofar. That Yom Tif that you celebrate when there's a new moon.
Maybe I have a meaning that.
Huh? Elo?
Yeah.
No. It says in Chumash, Chodesh Hashvi Bechad LaChodesh. It says clearly in Parshas Pinchas and Parshas Emer. It's not called Rosh Hashanah, but the Yom Tif is mentioned in Chumash. Yom Trua Yilachah. So Zen Nemer Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar. That this Chodesh, that has to be Tikeu. What's this Chodesh? The 6th day of creation. This Eirus has to be with the Kol Shofar, not with the voice of man. When you cry with your own mouth, your own voice. So Rosh Hashanah, you could stand up and start crying. No, you have to use Dafka the Kol Shofar, the ram's horn. Because by the creation of man, it says, Acher v'kedem tzartani. David HaMelech says, Acher v'kedem tzartani v'atoshas alai kapecha in Tehillim. What does it mean? Acher v'kedem. You have formed me, Acher, last, and kedem, first. So Chazal say, Acher l'maisa bereishis. Adam is the last one in Maisa Bereshis. Acher, he's the last one. And Chazal say in Masechta Sanhedrin that when man sins, we tell him, Yitush kadmach, even a flea, a mosquito, preceded you. So he says, but here we come to another point. Einoi ma'oder kol kach, madreges el yainus shel gil midas harachamim, k'moi bekol shofar shel behema, sheshar shel amayla madreges ha'adam, ela shenafla lamata mata madreges ha'adam k'noida. There's something in the animal that the human being doesn't have. Because, although he doesn't elaborate here, but we spoke about this once, Sheishas Yomim, Pesach time, that the shorish of a behema, why is it that Hashem made that food is dafka from the lower forms of creation the person could live? The animals don't need us, we need the animals. Vegetation doesn't need us, but we need vegetation. The only way a person could live is if you eat fruits, vegetables, or the animals you eat. L'chayr, it's a pella. That the person can only get life, including spiritual life, neshama life, through the behemoth. And he answers over there, he explains, so that Arizal says moitze pi Hashem of the animal, or of the vegetables, or of the fruits. He says, but a person also has moitze pi Hashem. But the moitze pi Hashem in them is higher. There's something in the shorish of a behemoth that's even higher than a person. Yes, it fell down, he says, Lamata Madregas Adam, of the process called Shviras HaKelim, whatever is higher falls lower. That's why the person needs the behemoth. So he says, when you use the ram's horn, there's something that gets triggered in a space by Hashem that's deeper even than the human cry. L'chayr, it's not your own. You're taking an animal to cry through the animal. But there's something that's triggered through that space, dafka that space in the person. And to understand this more psychologically or emotionally, you have this in a person himself. You have the chelik ha'adam in the person, and you have the chelik ha'behema in the person. When the chelik ha'behema in the person cries, there's something very profound in that simple. There's something simple, uncomplicated, and deep, primal, that was the word. There's something very primal in that sound that comes from a deeper place than this complex sophistication of the Homo sapien. The behemoth, the kol shofar l'chayre, it's a ram's horn. But nonetheless, in that ram's horn, it's mushrish, there's something rooted in it. The animal voice, the animal coil that's deeper even than koil adam.
Is that why we based part of Sisra's mother?
Could be. What happens when you take the shofar of the behemoth, which comes from a higher place than the person, and therefore could be ma'ored higher madregas than the person? What happens next is bekesa le'yom chagenu, and here you have the whole nekuda. Kesa comes from the word kisui, cover. Pirush mebchin is bekesa, from the state of kes shehulosh and his skasus, from the word cover michsa. Vis almus ein soif baruch, from the concealment of the infinity. Bislapshus matem bebchinas asiya gashmis v'olam hazagash. The whole cosmic process that he explained, that from pure infinity, ultimately the divine energy is restricted and is manifested all the way below to create physical reality that we know. Nimshach, from this bakesa, you have what? You have chagenu, liyas liyam chagenu. We teach chagenu, a holiday, chag. But Pirush is another pshat of chagenu. Chagenu miloshen achvi lebe machayk. Chagigid afhei, the Gemara tells a story with Rabbi Yeshua ben Chananya, who was summoned to the king with his opponent, who was an anti-Semite, and they had a contest in front of the king with riddles. The Gemara has an expression there, achvilei b'machik. He made a gesture to him, he pointed to him with his finger, achvilei b'machik, shu inyan gilui achamara alav be'etzba. So he says, chagenu represents expression to the point that you point. The Gemara says that he was pointing with his fingers this way, that way. Kamar Shamar Razal, the Gemara says at the end of Tainus, Asid HaKadosh Baruch Hu lasas machal l'tzadikim. Hashem is going to make a dance, a machal for tzadikim, a marin olav be'etzba v'oimrim, hine elekeinu zeh kivinu lo yireyeshenu, zeh Hashem kivinu lo negilav nizmachal b'shuasan. Sheyeh gilu yelekusi yizbarach ba'olam v'lo yiyeh ha'olam mailam. What's that marin olav be'etzba? They're going to point with the finger. In other words, it's a euphemism, it's a symbol. When something is very revealed, you could say, here it is. It's not Nister anymore. Somebody who's not here, I can't say here he is. I could talk about him in third person, or her in third person. Maribet's boy v'oimer zeh hine alekenu zeh. That's what he says. There'll be Maribet's boy. So when the Gemara says machvele b'machik, it means he pointed with a finger. Bakesa liyoim chagenu means Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar. On this day of the new moon, Rosh Hashanah, the 6th day of creation, when Adam Arishon comes into the world, so now the world could be reversed. From separation, you create unity. From yesh, you create ayin. From detachment, you create attachment. From the pain of existence, you see it as an invitation for a deeper form of unity. That's what it is. That it should be from you, within you. It should be a relationship. A relationship can only come from differentiation. If I never detached from you, I could never be attached to you. You heard what I said? If you're not detached, you can't be attached. Which is why, it's interesting, Adam and Chava were created as Siamese twins, attached. Would have made for wonderful shalom bayis. She would always know where he is. Imagine your wife always knows where you are. There's no texting when you're coming home, It was a Machaya, Siamese twins. She washes the dishes, you gotta be there with her. A Machaya, it's so wonderful. Yeah, they say the old sad joke that the only woman who knows where her husband always is a widow. Besides that, they're always wondering, it's a nasty joke, they're always wondering where the husband is. Siamese twins, Amachaya. What did Hashem do? He separated Adam and Chava. When? On Rosh Hashanah. It's called the Nesira. So there's another mime for the Balatanya here in Rosh Hashanah. He speaks Lahav and Inyan, and it said the decoupling. Nesira means decoupling. Like sawing, necessary, right? You detach. So what happened with Adam and Chava is surgical decoupling. From a couple, from oneness, he made a fragmentation. Why? So that there could actually be a much different type of unity. a unity that comes from separation, not from attachment. The unity that comes from attachment is very one, but it's because there's no self. The yesh never emerged. You were never born. You were never born, so you're also, of course you're attached by default. You're not attached by choice. Malch, that's memshala. Malchus, shetamlichuni aleichem, means you're attached by choice. The only way you can be attached by choice is if you can also separate. If you're not separate, how can you attach by choice? By default, you're attached. That's a Siamese twins. That's why there's an expression in another Maimer. He says that Adam and Chava, when they were created, it was acher ba'acher, back to back. When they're separated, now it could be panim b'panim, face to face. So it's not just physically that you could look, Adam and Chava could look at it, it also represents mentally. A relationship back to back, you could be very connected, but you never see each other. You can't appreciate the other as an other. Why? Because they're not an other. They're just by default connected to you. So in many ways, it's a very strong connection. And many people like to hold on to such relationships. But it's essentially back to back. You never see the other person. You don't even see an other. The other is simply an outgrowth of you because it's just part of who I am. Panim bepanim actually means I see you. And I see you as not me, because if it's me, it's not you. So the relationship is coming from me being me and you being you, and then we choose to connect. That happens on Rosh Hashanah. That's why Adam and Chava are separated on Rosh Hashanah. It's metaphoric of the separation of Hashem and the universe and the soul. So you have Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar. You start the process of what? Attachment. How? Through the shofar. The shofar tells you two things. First of all, cut yourself slack. Of course you're separated. You're not one anymore. Good morning. You have to wake up and, smell the coffee. You're not one. You have to take responsibility for your life, and you have to understand that there is separation with all that comes with separation. Nonetheless, what is it there for? So you should be able to create a deeper connection, a deeper attachment. And the very appreciation of the pain of separation and the screaming out about that pain is what allows you to overcome that separation, is what allows you to heal that separation. And that's why Bakesa brings Yom Chagenu, the ability of Chagenu to point with your finger. The Kesa, this almost the Kisui, is all Yom Chagenu. That's what the Pasuk says. Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar. So that the Kesa should be able to be transformed into a day, into a Yom as an revelation of what? To the point of Chagenu Marabetz Boiva Omer Zeh in a much deeper way, because it comes from the Yesh becoming one with the Ayin. And then the Pasuk continues, Ki Choik li Yisrael hu mishpat Likkutei Yankov. Literally, Choik we translate as a statute, a law, like Chukim, right? Choik li Yisrael hu. It's a law for Israel. Mishpat, it's a time of Mishpat, justice, judgment, Likkutei Yaakov, for the God of Yaakov. Which, if we understand the Pasuk as Rosh Hashanah, this would be the first place that it would say that Rosh Hashanah is a Yom of Mishpat, because in Chumash doesn't say anything about Rosh Hashanah being a Yom Hadin or anything else. It just says it's a Yom Tov. We don't even know why it's a Yom Tov in Chumash. It doesn't say. It just says B'chodesh Hashvi Be'echad LaChodesh. It should be a Yom Trua Yeh Lachem. But here he says Choik li Yisrael. So Zok the Balatanya, Choik doesn't only mean a law. Choik is Miloshin, we say in Eishes Chayil every Friday night from Mishlei. Vatitein, remember? Vatitein teref levesa, v'choik lena'ar oisaha. The woman gives teref. Teref would mean food, prey, nourishment for her home. And v'choik is mazain, nurture, food, nourishment, lena'ar oisaha, to her children, to her youth. V'chein, we have a pasuk also in Mishlei Perek Lamed, Hatrifeini lechem chuki. Give me, bestow upon me, lechem chuki, the bread of my mazon, sholoshen mazon, means food, nurture. Koloimar, choik li Yisrael, who doesn't only mean it's a law. Choik means it's a day of nurture, it's a day of mazon, it's a day of food li Yisrael. Koloimar hashpa v'amshacha li Yisrael, it's like v'choik l'narisa, it's a day of a flow, of a communication to the Jewish people. What does this mean? In the pasuk, he starts with Yisrael and he ends with Yaakov. Ki choik li Yisrael hu, mishpat l'lekei Yaakov. So now, we look at it and we say it's just for poetic reasons. You make here Yisrael, you make Yaakov, you don't want to repeat the same word twice. It's not a sophisticated way of writing. But the truth is that the Tehillim, like the Tanakh itself, is every word is by divine inspiration, so it's profoundly precise. So we're now going to discover two states of consciousness in the Jew, which is called Yisrael and Yaakov. When you want to describe Rosh Hashanah in terms of Yisrael, you say Choykli Yisrael. Rosh Hashanah in terms of Yaakov, it's Mishpat Likkutei Yaakov. So he says, Pirush, Kedei Li is B'chinas Yisrael. For a person to be in a state of Yisrael, what's Yisrael? Yisrael is a combination of two words. Lamed Yud, Reish Aleph Shin. Right? Yisrael. You have Lamed Yud, that's the first letter and the last letter, and then in the middle letters is Shin Reish Aleph, which makes Rosh. So together you have Li Rosh, my head, or a head to me. So take the human being. The regel, the leg, the foot, and all the parts of the body, you know, even the foot, is completely subservient to the brain. Whatever the brain chapped on the brain, we're running, we're walking. No mania, no. That's the key. It's not that the regel goes through a struggle. So I'm sitting giving a shir and I want to lift up my hand because I'm talking. So I tell my arm, my brain sends a message to my arm, you should right now lift up your hand. It'll be better for the shir. The hand says, I'm not in the mood. Who told you what to do? It doesn't work that way in the body. The synchronization of the body is one, that the leg, the hand, every limb is essentially the brain. It's an embodiment, it's an expression, a manifestation. It's one entity. Even though physically this is in the place of the brain. It's not like they have to struggle with themselves and say, who is this brain? He's such a tyrant. He's going to control my life. My brain is not controlling my life. That's it. It's time for autonomy. It's time for independence. We're stronger than the brain. It's not a problem. You could drill your skull, take out the little mushy jello brain. How big is it? And throw it in the garbage. But for some reason, a healthy human being does not do that, because the moment the brain goes into the garbage, the foot and the hand and all of them is gadol v'yiskatash. So it's not that there's a struggle, there's a psaratzen, and then the regel says, despite the fact that I'm not interested, I'm going to do it. We're talking, of course, if the body is capable. If the regel is not capable, so then we're not dealing with that. But the moment there's a capability, the Rosh says, this is what we're doing, the regel does this. Kach, so when you call a Jew Yisrael, it means he's in a state of Li Rosh. What says Li Rosh? Kach, Yisrael, Nikroye Bonam L'mak. Jewish people are called children of Hashem. Chazal tell us, Bra Kared Avur. This is B'diuk. A child, a son, is the foot. Kare is the foot of the father. Why do they say this? What means the foot of the father? He says, Pchines Bittel. A real relationship between a father and a son is one, but for this the father has to be a father, the son has to be a son. When you have a real relation between a father and a son, it's not that there's a struggle. I would like to do my thing. You would like me to do this thing. I'm going to overcome because there's a mitzvah of kibbud av, and because I do need my allowance at the end of the month, and that's very important. The true definition of childhood, in other words, if you see yourself as a child, we don't always see ourselves as children and our fathers as fathers. But if you experience what a child experiences, and the father experiences what a father experiences, it's like the relationship between Bra Kared Avur. There's a complete oneness between the two. Bra Kared B'chinas Bittel. So when Jews are called Bonam Lamakim, that's what the Ben is. Bra Kared Avur. It's like the Regel and the Rosh. There's a oneness that's very, very deep. When my father, Zechron Levracha, passed away, so he was a very interesting personality and a little mysterious. So I went to a friend of his who knew him very, very well. And this man was an essayist, a writer, a journalist for many years, a thinker. His name was Yeshua Dabrowski, passed away already. He was like a deep thinker. He had a chush in psychology. So I asked him, a few weeks after his death, I went to see him and I asked him to describe to me the essence of my father. I knew my father well, but I wanted to know the essence of my father. So he understood these things. He understood things very deeply. So he thought and thought and thought and thought, and he says, I can't tell you. I don't have what to tell you. So I'm like, okay, that's it. He says, no. If you look into your own essence, you'll find your father's essence. If you'll be able to find your essence, you'll find there your father's essence. So that's what he's saying here. That's what he's saying. That Barak Karada Avua, in other words, in the real place of the Ben, in the Nakuda Hapnimis of the Ben, that's where you find your father. And that's where the father finds the son. That's Yisrael. So the Jew as a Yisrael, meaning Li Rosh, God is my head, is the relation of Barak Karada Avua. Then that's one thing. Then there's Inyan Mishpat Lalakei Yaakov. Hainu. Yisrael nikra b'chinas Ben, b'ni b'chayri Yisrael. Yaakov nikra b'chinas Eved. Yaakov doesn't mean a head, Yaakov means a heel. Ekev, the sole of the foot. Pirush, b'chinas Ben, Barak Karada Avua, hainu b'chinas Bittel Mamash Keregel Lagabe Harosh. The son is like the foot and the head, they're one. Va'avodim, then there's Yaakov is called an Eved. The pasuk says, Avdi Yaakov. What's Avdi Yaakov? Yaakov is an Eved. Yisrael is a Ben. B'ni b'chayri Yisrael. That's why he brings these psukim. Yisrael in Chumash is associated with Ben. Yaakov is associated with Avdus. It's two states of consciousness. Avodim aynu sheyesh lam ratzon acher. K'moy Eved, shu zor v'nifred. Take the classic situation. What's an Eved? A slave, a servant. What's the concept? It's somebody who really doesn't belong to you. He doesn't belong to you. He's separate. A child is really one with a father. It's interesting, even in Halacha, the Ragat he explains a whole sugya of Basra by explaining that the Gemara says that Yerusha is not called Shinu Rishus. You know, by a Gazlan, if somebody steals something from you, so if there's Yiyush and Shinu Rishus, meaning you give up, and he changes domains, so there's an element of kinyan, and therefore he just has to pay back the value, not the object itself. The question is, if Yerusha is called Shinu Rishus, so Chazal say Yerusha is not Shinu Rishus. So the Rakat says, because a Ben oimed b'makam ha'av, hu etzem ha'av. It's not called a change, a transference from one domain to another domain. It's the same etzem. The Ben is the av on a certain level. The Ben is the aim on a certain level. In an unconscious space, or sometimes conscious, but in their core there's a oneness. So it's not a Shinu. It's not went over from one generation to another generation. On one level, on some level, it's mamish oneness. But we know that at some point the baby is born. The baby differentiates from the father and mother. And then sometimes it becomes a struggle. Like probably quite a few people sitting around this table, it's not so simple with your father. It's not so simple with your mother. And some spent years trying to figure out, do I like my father? Do I hate my father? Is my father the hero? Is my father the villain? Is my father the greatest tzaddik who ever lived? Or is my father the worst person who ever lived? Is my father clueless? Or is he just whacked out of his... Whatever it is. Is he a survivor? Is he a victim? Everyone deals with stuff, right? Because there's differentiation. You can't remain in the womb forever. You have to become separate. The Eved is a separate person. The Eved is not mine. So even when an Eved is loyal, the Gemara says in Gittin, Avda behefkeire nichale. The Eved is behefkeire. He wants hefkeiris. He doesn't want to serve you. It's a suppression of self. It's not who he is. So it's a struggle. You can't compare it to a Ben. So the Ben represents there's oneness, even if you don't feel the oneness. Avdus means that there's essentially separateness. Where do you see in the lashon of Yaakov the idea of Avdus? Now you're saying Yisrael li Rosh. There's a pasuk, no? Avdi Yaakov. Altira Avdi Yaakov. We say Mitzvah Shabbos. So Yaakov he associates with Eved. Why? Because there's a state of Ekev, there's a state of Rosh. In Rosh there's the full consciousness of your dveikus with the Boirei Olam. In Regel there's no consciousness. Yaakov in the sole of the foot. The Avos Rabbi Nosson says that the Ekev is Malach HaMavis Sheba Adam. Because the weakest blood circulation is in the feet, right? That's why diabetics that have bad throat, the first thing gets affected is the feet, because it's a less life. There's less vitality there, so there's less consciousness. Avos the Reb Nosson says that the Ekev is Malach HaMavis Shabbat. So b'meila, Afal became Mekayim Mitzvah Sadonai, but he's still an Eved. He does what the master wants. Elishu b'chinas Mulchama. But there's a battle. And there's many obstacles. He has to subdue, he has to confront, he has to battle. Yisrael is a model of ishapcha, transformation, in other words, alignment. Yaakov is a model of iskafia, which is basically subjugation, from the word koifen, I say. Ishapcha is from the word v'napeichu, you are transformed. there's no struggle anymore. Iskafia means I have to sometimes force myself. It's two different stages in Avodas Hashem. So therefore, we have the model of Yisrael, the Jew who's conscious of a relationship that's one. It's not a struggle anymore. It's the greatest geschmack. To do the Ratzon of Hashem is the greatest geschmack. It's like the foot following the head. That's who it is. I'm not battling it. That's who I am. I am my brain. My brain is one with me. We work together. It's a single organism. It's not like there's different parts of the body. It's one organism, and the brain is the consciousness of the entire organism. So he tells the regel what to do. The regel feels, that is my inyan. I am a chelik of the Rosh. It's not a struggle. The child is a chelik of the father and the mother. Like when a baby feels this. You see the dveikus of babies with parents before growing up. They say Mark Twain said, when I was 9, my father was a genius. When I was 19, he became a moron. What does he know about life? Now I'm 29 and I have a bunch of kids of my own. And the guy is pretty wise. It's funny how much the old man learned in 10 years, right? So people go through that process. Yeah? First you're one with your parents, then it's a mitzvah to delegitimize them. Whatever they say, by definition, is wrong. It's the 11th commandment. If your mother says it or your father says it, it's the worst thing in the world because your friend didn't say it. And then you get a little older and you realize that the old man may have some wisdom. So it's this.
Klal prat to klal applies to
Exactly.
parent-child
Of
cycle
course,
as well.
same thing. Klal prat to klal.
Klal.
Starts with attachment, real attachment, especially with the mother. And then there's detachment. And there's the trauma of detachment. And then there is trying to believe that you're not part of your mother. And with Jews, that's very hard to actually make space between yourself and your mother. Or your father, depends what type of mother you have. And then there's the nakuda of coming back, of the klal. So you have, in this process, you have the Jew as Yisrael, and the Jew as Yaakov, the Jew as a Ben, and the Jew as an Eved. And it's two strands in Avodas Hashem, and you can have 1 hour this, 1 hour this. One day you're in the mood of davening, one day it doesn't mean anything for you. You have to battle, everything is a battle. One day you have spiritual clarity, and one day you're completely confused. Complete opaqueness, complete darkness. So he says as follows, V'hinei ha'adam nidim b'Rosh Hashanah. A person is judged on Rosh Hashanah, but for what are you judged? You know what you're judged on Rosh Hashanah for? Al hamshachas elakus shaboy. Im huroy liyos gilui elakus benafshay. How ready is he to feel his wholeness? That's the judgment of Rosh Hashanah. How ready are you to be able to become one with yourself? Are you ready? Are you ready to experience the Gilui Elikus, the revelation of godliness in your own soul? This is based on how the person lived. How the person lived throughout the year. Are they ready for this state of wholeness? Or they still have to work through their brokenness? That's why when it comes to Yaakov, there's a mishpat. Yaakov. In the state of the Yaakov, where there's a war, there's always an enemy that you have to prevail over. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you lose, you get defeated. Menatzeach means you win, menutzach means somebody else wins. You're menutzach, you're passive, you're defeated. The
enemy is the feeling of fragmentation.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's when you're able.
Yeah. It's a struggle. You know, I get a punch, you get a punch, right? You're on the ring, I box, you box. We both get bruised. The question is who wins at the end, who gets the knockout. But it's la'oim eloim yemotz, that's what Rivka is told. You have two twins. Ula'oim eloim yemotz, meaning, as Rashi says, one nation will become stronger from the other nation. It's like a seesaw. You go up, I go down, I go down. V'lachein b'zeh yesh mishpat la'lekus shaboy. Here there's a mishpat. When it comes to Yaakov, God as a God of Yaakov, here there's mishpat. What's the mishpat? The mishpat is if you're royu to be able to experience the full elikus in your soul. If you put in the work into your life to be able to experience the absence of the gap, the complete achdus between the yesh and the ayin. That's the mishpat, that's the main judgment of Rosh Hashanah. That's the main judgment of Rosh Hashanah. Am I capable, am I ready to become whole? Am I capable of experiencing God's unconditional love and unity, or I'm not? Because to really experience unconditional love, you have to be able to be whole. If you feel you're broken and detachment or fragmented, you won't be able to experience it. Mashenki b'bchinas Yisrael, li roishu b'chinas ben brakara davua, sham hu chayk u'mazen. Over there's always a flow of nourishment. In Yisrael, there's no mishpat on Rosh Hashanah. Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar chagenu. But there's two states. When it comes to Yisrael, the state of Yisrael, of the Jew, there it's chayk. There's always nourishment. There's always hashpah, there's amshacha, because there's never a separation. On the level of Yaakov, where there is a separation, because you're an Evet means I don't feel that I'm part of you. I have to overcome that. Here there's the mishpat of Rosh Hashanah, Likkutei Yaakov. Are you ready? How much are you ready for the Gilui? Are you ready for the Gilui Likus B'nafshay? This depends each person on their avodah. But there's a state of Yisrael where there's not a judgment. Why? Because there was no separation. There's a oneness. Remember that the Ein Sof is here. The question is how much consciousness the person has of it. The tzimtzum is only from one perspective. But you have to remember one thing. Mishpat ihu rachami. This is a quote from Tikunei Zoyar's introduction. Those who say Pasach Elio on Friday say this. Mishpat ihu rachami. The Gemara says, the Pasuk says, V'shaftu ha'eda, v'hitzilu ha'eda. Everybody knows the Mishnah and Sanhedrin. That's why Sanhedrin has to be 23 people. Why 23 people? So Chazal say, because you need an Eda, Chayeves, and an Eda Matzelis. You need a full minyan that should be able to say innocent. And a minyan to be able to say guilty. But you can't have 20 because it's an even number. You can't have 21 because when it comes to guilt, you need at least a majority of 2. You can't have 22 because it's even, so you have 23. So even mishpat is iyu rachame. Mishpat in Yiddishkeit is never about vengeance, judgment, I will show you who's boss. Mishpat is always about compassion. We learned what compassion is. Compassion is to make you whole again, to bring you back to yourself. So even the Mishpat Likkutei Yaakov is not a judgment in a sense of, I'm judging you because you lived a broken life, so you're not roy for Gili Elikus. It's a Mishpat to be able to help the person. So therefore, Shalachein Niskenu Aseret Simei Tshuva V'Yom Kippurim. That's why you have Aseret Simei Tshuva and Yom Kippur, not for the Yisrael so much. The main thing is for the Yaakov. L'oire rachamim rabim ubakoshes slach lanu. The whole nikud of Aseret Simei Tshuva is to arouse compassion and the requests of slach lanu. What's slach lanu? What is slach lanu? Forgive, forgive, forgive. What is this? You asked him already 100 times. Some people are going to say slicha again. What's pshat? What is this slach lanu? Liyos gilui rotzen ha'elyon b'nafshay. Slach lanu is I want to be able to feel your full will, your full passion in my soul. It's like a person who comes to a best friend and he says, I did something against you, I want to apologize. What are you looking for? You don't want him to sue you? You don't want him to gossip about you? Maybe that's a base number. It says that's not the nekuda. The nekuda is she'ikir bakashazu hulahalois levavoi uritzonei elav. If it's a real friend, what's bothering me is not that in my resume they're going to say that he did this. That's selfish. What I crave is your heart. I used to have your heart. I don't have your heart anymore. I backstabbed you. I don't have your heart. I don't have your rutzen anymore. You don't have passion. You can't be with me in a comfortable way. You have to protect yourself. In other words, during the chet, his face was turned away. Mechila is not just, okay, I forgive you, I'm not taking you to Bezdin. I won't press charges. That's the basics. Mechila is chazaras haratzon. I'm interested in you again. We can have intimacy. Kach mevakshim slach lanu. This is slach lanu. Ein abakash al yiras ha'oinish. You're not asking, you're afraid that God is going to punish you. He's going to sue you. He's going to press charges. He's going to call the police. That's not what you're asking. God, do me a favor, spare me. I don't want a lightning coming down today to kill me. That's not the bakasha. That's not the nekud of slach lanu. This you don't have to say a whole yom kippur say simei tshuva. What is it? Elal gilu yaratzin shelo yiyeh behelim veheste ponim v'lo yiyeh gashmi yisa'olam malim. The slach lanu is I want your intimacy. I don't want that the world, my world, should conceal how close we are. I want to be able to experience fully your presence in my life. That's the slach lanu. Slach lanu is that I betrayed the relationship. The relationship is that I acted as though I'm broken. I behaved as though I'm fragmented. I could not overcome the separation. I could not realize that the separation was there to create deeper attachment. So the slach lanu is chazaras haratzin. You want shalayiyah behelim vehester pana. That's what you're asking. When you betray your friend, it's not the charges that he might do. That's okay. Yes, you want to take care of that. If he's gonna punish you, you don't want that. You want to ask mechila. But the real mechila is, I want your soul. I want to be able to look you in the eyes without shame. So I tell God, I want to be able to look you in your eyes, and you should be able to look me without shame, without any concealment. Now that's a very, very deep request. It's a very deep request. It's a deep, you can have a couple, and they live in the same house, but they can't look each other in the eyes. They could talk, they could do things, they do business deals constantly, they run a house together, supper, laundry, whatever it is, but they can't look each other in the eyes. Why? Because there's no trust, there's no full trust. Intimacy is into me, see. Not to turn away your face, not to turn away your face. That's slach lanu. I apologize, I made a mistake, yeah, I need forgiveness, but the real slach lanu is, I want back your soul. So he says, Hashem That's why the first thing of the Yom Sarachim, as we said before, Hashem passes over his face. Vayikra Hashem, Hashem twice Hashem. Upsik taima begavayu. If you look in the Torah, there's a tam, there's a psik, a line that separates one Hashem from another Hashem. So Rashi says, Koidem sheyechta, la'achar sheyechta. Yeah? There's Hashem before you sin, there's Hashem after you sin. But the Tikeu Bachoidesh Shofar was said after the Chet HaEgel, so why are we talking now about the God before you sin? Hashem Koidem sheyechta. So he's going to say the deeper pshat here. What's pshat? Havaya ha'echad, this is very interesting. Havaya ha'echad, hu b'chinas bittul ha'elyon b'chinas havaya ha'elyon b'mekoirei. The first Hashem is the bittul from in the state of havaya, in the source. Up havaya habeis hainu hamshachas habittul b'makom hayesh shayiyah hayesh batalaya. The first havaya represents the state of the Ein Sof pre-tzimtzum, pre-midas hadin, pre-restriction. So everything is one. The second havaya is the oneness that you come only after the separation, only after the fragmentation, only after existence. The first havaya doesn't allow sin. That's what Rashi is saying. Koidem sheyechta, not chronological, doesn't allow for sin. Sin can only come because I don't feel that I'm one with you. The foot does not sin against the head. That doesn't happen unless a person is sick. When a person is sick, the head tells the foot move, and the foot says, Ani lo yachal. What is sin really? Sin really is the person doesn't feel their capabilities. Right? We call sin a form of illness. So people take it in a guilty way. Really, it's not a guilty way. It's a very profound idea. A person doesn't feel capable. They feel weak. They don't feel their dveikus. So b'meila, then the regel rebels. But if the regel is healthy, it doesn't rebel. So it's koidem sheyechta. In that achdus, in Yisrael, there's no sin. That's what the Gemara says, Afal pi shechata, Yisrael hu. So we teach, even though he sinned, he's still a Jew. The Balatanya teaches no. Even though he sinned, Yisrael hu, there's a place where he never sinned. That's what he teaches. Next Maimer, we'll see. Afal pi shechata, Yisrael hu. There's a space where he never sinned. Because it's a relationship with the head. Hashem is like the head and the foot. It's a different vart. It's not even though he sinned, we'll be nice. We'll still be nice. We won't throw him out. Today you have to say, Afal pi shaloi chata Yisrael. Sometimes it's harder with people you know. But you want to ask something? So b'meila, if this is the case, the first havaya is koidem sheyechta. There's bittul. The second one is shia bittul yashlayin. So that's vayaver Hashem al pana vayikra. You want Hashem, but then there's the separation, and then there's a second Hashem. So he finishes v'zel lelekei Yaakov. That's why the mishpat is lelekei Yaakov, to the God of Yaakov. What's pshat lelekei Yaakov? So I hope you understood. Mishpat for the elikus that's going to be nimshach in Yaakov. Mishpat lelekei Yaakov. How much elikus will Yaakov experience? That's the mishpat of Rosh Hashanah. How whole will you be able to feel? That depends on your avodah. Ultimately, there's bchira. How whole are you capable of feeling in the relationship? Separated or whole? That depends on a person's life. How whole they will feel on Rosh Hashanah. So on Rosh Hashanah, there's the mishpat lelekei for the elokus that's going to be in Yaakov. For Yisrael, it's a different Rosh Hashanah. It's chayk Yisrael. It's a different bchina. It's the first Havaya. It's before the separation. B'meila. V'zel lelekei Yaakov. This is also the diuk elekei. Because elekei uloshen amshacha. Elekei always means a flow. Kamoi, we say in Shemona Esrei, elekei Avram, elekei Yitzchak, elekei Yaakov. What does it mean? We take it for granted. It's really insulting. Who's Hashem? The God of Avram, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Yaakov. They were people, 3 people. It's like that's his definition. Yeah. You'll say, who is this person? He's the husband of Ploinus Bas Ploinus. Elokei, who is God? You want to know? He's the God of Avram, the God of Yitzchak. So he says the pshat Elokei Avram is that there's hamshachet Avram. Avram can experience it. V'gabe Yaakov ksiv b'tois v'zvav ve'lokei Yaakov. Elokei Avram, Elokei Yitzchak, ve'lokei Yaakov. He didn't have a vav by Yitzchak. He shouldn't have a vav by Yaakov. The pshat is ki avav hu hamshacha. Vav represents a flow, a trickle down like the form of a vav. So from Avram to Yitzchak, it goes to Elokei Yaakov. Yaakov is midas harachamim. V'nimshach kol kach. It comes down so deeply. Atshe b'yom HaKippurim. What do we say? Yom Kippur in the pasuk. Parshas Acharei Mos. Ki b'yom hazeh yechaper aleichem l'tayir eschem mikol chateiseichem lifnei Hashem titaru. How do you touch lifnei Hashem titaru? So the pashtus is in the presence of God. Lifnei, in the presence of Hashem titaru. He says lifnei. Really, in Lashon Kodesh means lifnei means before. Right, lefonov, before. So he says, Lifnei Hashem means lamayla mebchinas havaya. Lifnei Hashem tetara, the reason you can have Tara is because you come to a place that's higher than havaya, meaning, midiksiv titaru, miklal shaloi hoya mitchila tahir. Now when you say titaru, it means lechatchila he wasn't tahir. And by becoming tahir, he goes to a place that's lifnei havaya, even deeper than havaya. V'kach tzarich la'oyer lamayla mebchinas hanal. He has to go higher than the shame, havaya. In other words, he has to go to the place of recreating the unity between the yesh and the ayin. So here he says it bekitzer, that there's a maila in the achdus that comes from the yesh, from the tumah, that reaches lifnei Hashem even before the first Hashem of Koydem Sheyachta. The first achdus that was there before sin. Lifnei Hashem titaru. V'agam diksiv mikveh Yisrael Hashem. It says mikveh Yisrael Hashem. The end of Masechta Yoma. Rabbi Akiva famously says ma mikveh matayr. V'hainu shebebchinas havaya hu gamkin mikveh l'tayr kana. What are you telling me that Tara comes from lifnei Hashem? The pasuk says mikveh Yisrael Hashem Yudkei Vavkei. You know, the Yudkei Vavkei is the mikveh, and Rabbi Akiva tells us mikveh is matayres hatmeim. He says, "Hakoil lefi hadavar shetzarich tara." Everything depends on the thing that needs tara. Yesh davar kal shonitim b'chinas hanal. There's a tumah that's very light, so then mikveh Yisrael Hashem. It's enough to have Hashem. V'yesh davar she'enei nitim b'chinazu. Sometimes the separation is so deep that the regular Yudkei Vavkei won't create tara. You have to go beyond Yudkei Vavkei, show lifnei havaya, or misham titaru. From there can be the tara, v'dai lemevin. This is enough for somebody who understands.
Is it possibly saying that the mikveh Yisrael Hashem, that's the Hashem which precedes Elokim, the symptom which we recognize, whereas the other one, lifnei Hashem, is the Hashem that was the ayin that preceded even the Ruchni breaking. Even
yes.
The original ayin before he was even...
Yes. Exactly. A good gebench to everybody. Aksiva v'achsima tova for you and your loved ones. Begeshem u'beruach.
This class is brought to you by theyeshiva.net. Please help us continue the classes. Make even a small contribution at www.theyeshiva.net/donate.